Hello everyone. Today we are going to be doing a series of tests and procedures to identify different types of bacteria. So the first test we are going to be doing is the amylose hydrolysis or the starch hydrolysis test. So to begin, we're going to clean our area, sterilize, wipe everything down. And after everything's clean, our microincinerator has been heating for 20 minutes, nice and warm. We are going to take our starch agar plate that we'll be using for this, and on the bottom with a grease pencil we're going to divide this into 4 and label each one by the bacteria that we're going to be placing there. I'm only going to be demonstrating one today. So for this we'll also be using an inoculating loop. This is our loop today. So to start, we're going to be heating that in our microincinerator for 10 seconds, letting that cool for 1 minute. We're then going to use our source culture broth, take the lid off with our pinky, heat the lip of that tube on the microincinerator for 2 to 3 seconds. Then we're going to take our loop and we are going to enter, and about 3/4 of the way down, get our sample. Heat the lip of the tube again, 2 to 3 seconds on that microincinerator. Then we're going to do a single line streak in our agar plate with our newly gotten sample on our inoculating loop. So we don't want to get too close to the center. Probably best to be a little bit more central on that, but hey, work with me. So we have the single central loop. We're then going to put the lid back on and sterilize our loop for 10 seconds. Let it cool for 1 minute. Set that aside. We're then going to take our agar plate. We're going to flip it upside down so the lid is on the bottom. And we're going to put that in the incubator at 37 degrees Celsius for 24 to 48 hours. So then when we come back after that time has passed, we are going to take the 2% iodine solution, the Graham's iodine, and we are going to drop several drops onto the sample that we placed and swirl it around with our clean, sterilized inoculating loop, just to spread it around just very gently, and then we will observe. After that, we're going to make sure everything's nice and clean, sterilized, wipe down. Our microincinerator is off. And that is it for the amylose hydrolysis. So for this test, we're going to be doing the casein hydrolysis test. So like everything else, we're going to make sure everything is clean and sterilized. Our area has been sprayed and wiped down. Our microincinerator has been on for 20 minutes warming up. So for this, we are going to be using an inoculating loop. And we are going to be using our casein agar plate instead of the starch agar plate as we did last time. So I'm going to start by dividing up our casein agar plate. It says into 5. I'm just going to do 4 for the sake of this video. We wrote that on the bottom of the plate with a grease pencil and labeled each section as the bacteria we're going to be placing there. So we're going to sterilize our inoculating loop in the microincinerator for 10 seconds, letting it cool for 1 minute. And then we're going to be taking our source culture, removing the lid, heating the lip for 2 to 3 seconds. And then with our inoculating loop that's clean, sterilized, we're going to be getting a sample. And then heating the lip of the tube for 2 to 3 seconds again, replacing the lid and setting that aside. Then we are going to do the single line streak method. Just like so. We're going to sterilize our loop for 10 seconds, letting that cool for 1 minute, setting that aside, replacing the lid on the casein agar plate. We're going to flip over our casein agar plate, put it in the incubator at 37 degrees Celsius for 24 to 48 hours, and then we will observe when that time has passed. Again, this is the casein hydrolysis test. For this test, we are going to be performing the indole test. So just like we start off with everything, we're going to make sure everything is sprayed down and wiped, and it is. And then our micro incinerator has been on for 20 minutes, getting nice and warm. So for this, we are going to be using a source broth culture and our tryptone broth. So first things first, we are going to take, we're using an inoculating loop for this as well. We are going to put that in the incinerator for 10 seconds, get it nice and sterilized, and then we're going to let it cool for 1 minute. We're going to take our source culture, we're going to remove the lid, heat the tube, lip of the tube for 2 to 3 seconds. We're going to get our sample, heat the lip of the tube again for 2 to 3 seconds, replacing the lid, and setting our source culture aside. We're done with that for now. Then we're going to take our tryptone broth. We're going to remove the lid of that, heat the lip of the tube for 2 to 3 seconds. We're then going to put our sample into the broth, being very careful, kind of wiggling it around in there just to make sure everything's off, and taking it out. And then, so we put our loop in there and then took it back out. And then we are going to heat the lip of the tube one more time, replace the lid, and set our tryptone broth to the side. We're going to make sure everything's closed up. We're going to sterilize our inoculating loop for 10 seconds, let it cool for 1 minute, and then set aside. And then we're going to place our tryptone broth with our source in the incubator at 37 degrees Celsius for 12 to 48 hours. And after that time, if we notice that there is some growth present, then at that time we will take the Kovacs agent and we'll take the tube, we'll take the lid off, heat on our incinerator for 2 to 3 seconds, and we'll place 10 drops of our Kovacs agent into our broth, our broth. We'll heat the lip of the tube for 2 to 3 seconds, replace the lid. We're going to sterilize our inoculating loop for 10 seconds, let it cool for 1 minute, and then we're going to take our broth and we're going to rotate it in the palms of your hands. That's how we're going to mix it, and then we will observe. Again, this is the indole test.